Hello and welcome to Telling Your Asset Management Story. Today, we're joined by John Caddy, whose professional journey has given him a unique perspective on the role procurement plays in supporting facilities, infrastructure, and long-term planning. Through his work at Sourcewell, John helps public agencies connect procurement strategies with the real operational needs of asset and facility managers across North America. In this episode, we'll talk about how he found his way into this space, why cooperative procurement continues to grow in importance, and how organizations can use it to navigate increasingly complex purchasing decisions.
John, welcome to this special episode of Telling Your Asset Management Story. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Bill. Good to see you again. It's been a little while. It's been about a year since we've
absolutely that's right. It was about a year ago that I froze myself silly in Minnesota doing the other videos that we used as part of our contract relaunch. So
right. Yeah, thank you.
Great. No problem. And looking forward to seeing you in a couple of months in June at the H2O conference as well. That's always one of my favorites. So
yeah, we're glad that you're able to make it again this year. It's a big event for us, and I promise the weather will be a lot nicer in June than it is right now. We're at the back end of a blizzard right now. So
oh dear. Well, John, one of the premises behind Telling Your Asset Management Story is for our guests to give us a little bit of background and tell us kind of how they got to where they are today. So can you share a little bit of your career journey that brought you to Sourcewell, and then how your career and Sourcewell as an organization has evolved since then?
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, I don't want to go on too long. I could probably talk all day about myself, but I've been with Sourcewell for about 7 years now. The first half of that time when I started in a unit that really focused and handled fleet and equipment contracts. And then about 3.5-4 years ago, I transitioned to a unit focusing on facility contracts and job construction contracts in states where we have those. But prior to coming to Sourcewell, I spent 24 years with one organization right out of college.
Wow.
I managed a couple retail stores, one in Duluth, Minnesota, one in Blaine, which is just on the north side of the Twin Cities. And that company manufactured and distributed livestock equipment and truck equipment.
Interesting.
So after the retail store management, I had an opportunity to set up and establish a wholesale territory in the Twin Cities metro area. So it was an opportunity to go out and identify folks who could distribute or be dealers for our product line. And after that, I was able to relocate back to Brainerd, Minnesota, where our home office was, and kind of my backyard where I grew up. And
nice.
I managed approximately 500 accounts in the Midwest. And, that really helped coming into Sourcewell with fleet and construction equipment and stuff like that, because their models are dealer models. That's how they go to market. So I kind of had that understanding and that knowledge. It was a matter then of learning cooperative purchasing and Sourcewell, of course. So I think that time helped lead into that. 3.5-4 years ago, I kind of transitioned to our facilities unit. We had a need for someone to help out with jock construction, which is really the same principle, right? It's a competitive solicitation. It's been satisfied, but those contracts are they have some more nuances. They're a little trickier, and it would be tough to start out with those. So I really made a lateral move. It wasn't a promotion or anything like that. It was just a jump over to a unit. And then that led to about 1.5 years ago or so, an opportunity opened up to be an associate director of our facilities unit. So now everything Sourcewell considers a facility contract falls under my purview. We've got a couple SDEs and an SDS that work with a portfolio of contracts in that world. So
Awesome. Well, and it's interesting how, kind of going way back to that store management in a retail setting, you would have had to deal with some facilities issues and facility related challenges associated with the store, and to come full circle back around and to now be overseeing all of the facilities contracts for Sourcewell. Kind of an interesting, kind of full circle moment. That's kind of neat. I didn't know that, actually.
Really? Yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
that was my early work life, and it was hectic. And yeah, like you said, managing staff, sales budgets, advertising budgets, and then the property itself. It was a lot of work, but great experience. And it's just kind of strange how you go down the path of working with dealers and distributors and everything they're going through, and then how that ties into an opportunity that came about with Sourcewell. It just seemed to fit perfect. So
Excellent. No, that's great. Well, and so, when we look at cooperative procurement, and so, we've been involved with you guys now for just over 5 years, and I think the amount of uptake, the amount of awareness over the last 5 years has been really amazing. But there's still folks that maybe don't know what cooperative procurement is and what Sourcewell is. Can you tell us a little bit about a little bit about the history and a little bit about where we are today, and specifically Sourcewell, for those that don't know kind of what it is and how they could potentially use it as they're tackling their asset management challenges?
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's really what we're working towards every day at Sourcewell, right? Is that awareness throughout our membership and awarded suppliers, all their dealers, all their salespeople. It's kind of a never-ending project. You think you're gaining ground, and then turns out there's a whole new slew of folks that uh,
Yeah.
need to understand. But
Somebody retired, the new person needs to know
oh,
all that stuff, right?
all the
Yeah.
time, yeah, all the time you're talking to folks that just are looking to be brought up to speed. And but growth, cooperative purchasing continues to grow. Sourcewell continues to grow. If you look at it by definition, cooperative procurement, it's procurement conducted by, excuse me, or on behalf of one or more public procurement units. That's a technical definition, but public entities need legal and compliant ways to purchase, and competitive processes have to be met to make those legal purchases using public money. So having an option where that process is already satisfied, that's what a cooperative contract is, right?
Right.
Public agencies don't necessarily have to duplicate that long, lengthy, costly process of going out to bid on their own. They can piggyback
Right.
another contract. So joint exercise of powers laws across the country, really in each state, dictate the ability for entities to piggyback, and for what. But somewhere along the line, a lead agency needs to have competitively solicited and awarded contracts, so everybody had a fair shot at winning the business. And that's what Sourcewell does. As a government, we are our own lead agency. We have our own procurement department, and we work hard to do the things the right way, so that comfort is there for our members across the country to get to contracts and the suppliers that they need. So
Awesome. No, that's great. And I think that, like I said, the amount of market awareness and growth of cooperatives overall, but specifically Sourcewell, has been amazing to
yeah,
watch since
late
21, when we
90s,
got our first contract.
late 90s was Sourcewell's first contract for office
Mhm.
equipment, and it
Wow.
obviously a lot of time, a lot of work, but Sourcewell and other cooperatives have done a fantastic job of putting options out in front of our members, and that's why it continues to grow and outpace government spend every year. So
Yeah. What do you think, John, in your experience, are some of the biggest misconceptions about cooperative procurement or cooperative contracts that you hear when you're talking to your members or prospective members from the public sector across North America?
I think I would still have to say that it's the biggest misconception is that it's not legal, or it doesn't
Hmm.
satisfy requirements, or that it skips or bypasses the bidding
Hmm.
process.
That's a great one. Yeah.
That's what we're always working on, and working to educate folks with. It's just that that process is never skipped. It's never bypassed. It's
Hmm.
just done up front. So
Yep.
Sourcewell, I know, spends a lot of time developing these categories and going through that process. It starts typically 18 months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Being a government ourselves, answering to a publicly elected board of directors, we have to do things just like other public entities out there. So I think that really helps with the comfort in using
Mm-hmm.
contracts. But that misconception, in most cases, it seems like our process will often exceed legal requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun talking with members from time to time, and they start to understand how this all works. So
That's great.
yeah.
John, you mentioned your unique structure, if you will, as a cooperative, because there's different cooperatives and they're all set up differently. Some are lead agency models, some are private companies, for-profit companies, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about what makes Sourcewell unique from its government entity perspective?
I think that's one of them, right? I mean, we're government, we're a local unit of government within the state of Minnesota. Our .gov, our website is a .gov. That's kind of helps identify that we are who we are. So once again, that comfort, I think doing things the way that they need to be done to make those purchases and understand everything is done so it's legal and compliant. That's job number one for public folks, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They pretty much get an idea of what it is they need. They know what their budgets are. They can work all of that out. But first and foremost, they've got to purchase it in a correct manner, and that's our product, if you will. And then it's our suppliers like yourself, Bill, that are really bringing the value. You're bringing the solutions that our members need. That's how this whole thing works. So
awesome. No, that's great. And I think being one of them or being like them as a government entity has been really helpful as we've talked to folks, when people are like, I'm not so sure. And once you're like, well, no, this is a government entity. This is not, that has certainly helped give a level of comfort for folks and then allow them to dig deeper into it. And I can say, having responded now to two solicitations from you guys, it's deep and intense. There's
that's
not
a fun
much
process, isn't it?
Yeah, there's not much about the company that I've ever written in a proposal that wasn't included in the responses, and the transparency that you bring to the whole thing from end to end has been great. You mentioned kind of the value that's brought by your suppliers. Can you talk a little bit about the types of things that are offered through Sourcewell? I mean, you have like 500, 600 contracts now. Just at a high level, kind of what could a facility or asset manager, and even beyond just the facilities type contracts, what type of things can you streamline and satisfy procurement requirements for?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So Sourcewell is, we divide things up into 14 major categories. So some of them we mentioned, right? Facilities, we might have office and administration, fleet, construction equipment, construction, insurance. There's 14 major categories that everything kind of filters under. And we're approaching or over 900 awarded contracts.
Oh my gosh, I'm out of date then. Wow.
That's how fast it's growing,
Yeah.
But to mention some categories to that folks might be familiar with, we talk about facility assessment, HVAC, facility securities, janitorial equipment, elevators, paint, equipment and supplies, portable and relocatable buildings, pest management. These are all that just fall really within the facilities unit. Electrical energy power generation, generators, from anything portable that you can wheel around to the large standby generators that you see at hospitals or schools, MRO equipment. So to relate that to suppliers, names you might be familiar with: Johnson Controls, Siemens, Daikin, Honeywell, Carrier, Granger, Wesco, Fastenal. World-class suppliers, right? Best solutions available. That's what this is about. It's a pathway for our members to get the best solutions available at a fair price. So,
No,
and it's growing all the
awesome.
time. We're always working to develop new categories. AI is a hot topic right now. What is that doing for procurement? What is that doing for solutions that our members need? So we've got a complete team that works on nothing but those things all the time.
Awesome. Well, one of the things, John, and we've seen this evolution over the last 5 years, but I think it's fair to say that cooperative procurement sort of started in the products market, right? You mentioned paint, you mentioned equipment, you mentioned fleet. That's sort of the origin story, I think it's fair to say, of a lot of cooperative procurement. Obviously, you mentioned things like construction and services. So can you talk a little bit about kind of that evolution and how for a facility or an asset manager, how the procurement of products versus services could is similar but different for them that are looking to use it for potentially both?
Well, I think the contracts and the process really is the same, right? That competitive solicitation and awards process has been done. So there's ready to use contracts. But it's a lot different, say, purchasing a lawnmower, a SKU, a part number with maybe a couple options or add-ons than it is a facility assessment project. So some of the differences are going to be have to do with the complexity or the scope of work, ongoing management of those programs. It's just a different animal altogether. But the idea that there's a solicitation satisfied, there's a price file, everything is under certain kinds of guidelines, is really the same. I would say that sometimes when you look across the country geographically, service, labor, construction service, whatever term you use, is viewed differently as products. So early on, it was products that was accepted, and it really is just a matter, I think, of comfort and time to start understanding there's a whole nother set of contracts, service-oriented contracts, that certainly can be used. You do run into a few places where it's viewed differently enough that they say, no, that doesn't fit with what we have, what we're required, to complete a bid process. But it's very few places, and things change. Things are changing fast, generally for the positive. So, differences in the work, differences in the solution. Contracts are pretty much the same.
Oh, that's awesome. And it was a great segue kind of talking about how things continue to evolve. Because just curious, John, how do you see cooperative procurement in general evolving over the next 5 to 10 years based on your experience to date in the industry?
Well, I see cooperatives being more and more important. I don't necessarily manage a facility or a grounds or a building. So I get an opportunity, though, to be out and about talking to our members. I do get a glimpse of the inquiries that come in from them, what they're looking for. But in general, cooperative purchasing is growing roughly 20% per year. Sourcewell's been at the top end of that, or leading growth among cooperatives. That's not going to slow down. Projections, obviously by us, other cooperatives, and even neutral parties out there, NCPP, for example, are all indicating that it is becoming more and more important for public folks to have that in their bag, to have that in their mix for getting the things that they need. And interestingly, out of all those categories we talked about, Bill, and all the contracts, there's 3 categories that are really on the leading edge of growth, and that is facility assessment for us. HVAC is a big one, facilities maintenance. I would say those 3, and maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's more comfort. Enough time has went by. Maybe it's a mix of suppliers. It could be a lot of things, but we're seeing really, really good growth in those categories. Could be because they're the areas that are really of need right now too.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, I think that most organizations are being asked to do and this is true of procurement groups as well, is are being asked to do more with less, right? And I've even heard some organizations that are starting to have the conversations of we gotta do less with less, right? Like we have to lower our levels of service because we simply don't have the resources. And so the ability to take a workflow that could take 3, 6, 9 months and compress that down into a much shorter period of time just means that procurement departments can do more procurements as opposed to having to go through that same competitive process that you've already done on their behalf. So that's a huge efficiency tool and time saver where there are contracts in place, obviously. And again, I'm sorry I'm so out of date. I didn't realize there were over 900 contracts. That's amazing. Because that's one of the things that I always encourage people to, if they're not super familiar with Sourcewell and we bring it to them, it's like, look, guys, we're having a conversation about what we do, but there's so many other things that you need on a daily basis that could be available through these contracts. And kind of on that note, I guess, I mean, I know you guys have tens of thousands of members across the US and Canada. If somebody from the facilities world maybe isn't that familiar with Sourcewell, or if they have somebody in their procurement department that wants to learn more, what's the best way for a potential Sourcewell member or Sourcewell contract user to learn more about the organization?
Yeah, that's fantastic, and we look for that. We hope for that, right? It's all about that comfort, that understanding. Job number one is legal and compliant purchases. They got to ask questions. They got to do their due diligence and make sure. Reach out to Sourcewell, sourcewell-mn.gov. If you know an awarded supplier, they can put you in contact with folks at Sourcewell. But we have an entire team. We have, I work in cooperative purchasing on the supplier side of things. We have kind of a sister department called government accounts. Membership is really what it used to go by. But that's their job. They're an outlet, a point of contact for our members. And we've got the country broken down regionally by vertical. So any potential member in the US is going to have a go-to person at Sourcewell that can help facilitate those questions. And if it's something they don't know, yes, we have a legal department, a government relations department. We've got a marketing department. We've got all kinds of folks working hard that can provide answers. And I think we pride ourselves in my unit. We like to say we're government at the speed of business. I mean,
that's awesome. That's great. Actually, I like that.
Yeah, we try and communicate quickly, like private industry does day to day. So. Reach out to us if you have any questions. We'd be more than happy to talk to you and help provide information that'll lead you. We're never going to be able to say this is legal, this is not legal.
Of course.
We're not legal counsel for anybody, but we'll provide whatever information for folks to make that decision. So
awesome. And last question, John, for our Canadian listeners, can you talk a little bit about Sourcewell's relationship with Canoe and how Canadian prospective users can plug into your contracts through Canoe?
Absolutely. Canada's growing like gangbusters. Sourcewell has a partner we work with called Canoe Procurement, and they're in Canada. They work solely in Canada based off of Sourcewell contracts. So our supplier partners that have the ability to serve Canada, they would respond that way. They would answer in their response to us that yes, we have the ability and interest in serving in Canada. And it's a little bit of a process, right? I know, Bill, you've been through it, but there's an onboarding with Canoe. The idea is the same thing. The competitive solicitation has been satisfied, but things are a little bit different, north of our border than it is here. So we've got folks from Canada that work with other Canadian folks that make things go smoothly. So definitely opportunities out there. Canoe is very active. They've got some great folks working for them in capacities like myself. They have a kind of a membership side and a supplier side, but if anybody needs contact, reach out to Sourcewell. We can do that very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great to have as an organization that operates on both sides of the border, it's great to have Sourcewell in the U.S. as a U.S. government entity, and Canoe in Canada as a Canadian entity. The markets are very similar. A lot of similarities, north-south, but it is nice to have that distinct, if you will, organization on either side of the border. So. John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. I'm so glad we got to share with our audience. So thanks for joining us on telling your asset management story.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
John's perspective is a great reminder that effective asset management depends on more than good data and long-term planning. It also depends on having the right processes in place to move good decisions into action. As the needs of public agencies continue to evolve, conversations like this help make the path forward a little clearer. Thanks for joining us on Telling Your Asset Management Story.